Shai is one of the most exciting guards to come up in the NBA. And honestly, when I look at his game, he really reminds me of a very young, kind of like Kobe Bryant, but also a mixture of him and James Harden in a sense. But then again, he has a mid-range game that is simply sublime. And I love watching him play. I know a lot of people hate watching him play because he does a lot of foul baiting. For me, it's kind of like, it's a tug and pull. Sometimes the foul baiting can be a little bit too much. And then there are other times where it's just kind of like they are kind of just fouling him and they're getting out of position. And he's just a smart defender or a smart person on offense and is able to utilize their disadvantages against them, and that's just simply what it is. But there are times where the whistle does seem a little bit too quick. But outside of that, like when you watch his game is pretty fun to watch. I love watching his game. But one of the things that I can't stand, especially as a fan in basketball, is when people talk about the MVP voting and who should be MVP and who should not be MVP. We exist in a day and age where everybody in the NBA is great. Even the role players who barely gets more than 10, 15 minutes a game, even those people who don't even get into the game, everybody is increasingly better than what they were back in the day. And that is just simply the fact. Now, the thing is that you have all this greatness and it elevates even the stars themselves. And so in order for you to be a star, you have to be better than the people who are below you. That makes a lot of sense. But the issue is that there's going to be a lot of people who are also better than you. And if you are, just watching Shai, you're watching the highlights, you see all the aura compilations and all that good stuff, you will see that, yeah, he is doing a great job this season in making his case for MVP candidacy. That is, if you're not paying attention to anywhere else in the NBA. Because right now, Jokic is having the greatest stretch a big has ever had, ever. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Jokic right now is the greatest big man to ever play the game. There is no big man who, one, is able to shoot the way he does, play in the post in the way he does, at the efficiency in the way he does it. Now, we're not even talking about the rebounding or the assists or anything like that. And that's not to say that there weren't bigs in the past that were able to do some of the things that he's able to do. It's all about efficiency. Because right now, he's probably the most efficient big in the NBA. He's shooting like 46% from three alone. And that's like shooting maybe like 3 shots a game in the three-point range. He doesn't shoot them that much. And so he's shooting it at a very efficient clip. And then we're not even talking about the fact that he is a floor general. Simply enough, using his height and his basketball IQ, and simply the system that he's in as well in Denver to work around him, he's able to dime up players at an extraordinary level. Something that we've never really seen a big able to do to that extent. And so we're seeing a height that has never been reached before. And I don't think a lot of NBA fans really understand what we're seeing right now. We're seeing something that is legendary, something that you will never see probably the rest of your life because it's so rare to get somebody who is that good. The issue is that Jokic is simply just a really chill guy. He's a chill dude. He doesn't really talk too much. He kind of just keeps to himself. He's not really the rambunctious guy. But imagine if he had the personality of, let's say, like a LeBron James, somebody who is going to be very well outspoken, somebody who's really kind of out there and really wants to be in the public eye, right? And is able to kind of like back up his stuff by also talking about how well he plays. You will see Jokic in a very, very different light. Now, for me, I love the game. I love watching basketball. I don't really need all that extra stuff. For me, I just like using my eyes, right? I see Jokic play, and I see the amount of impact that he has on the court, and I say, well, there we go. That guy is one of the best players I've ever seen. And we take it for granted that he's doing this on a night in and night out basis. Now, the issue is the NBA does not always regularly televise their games. Of course, they're box office, so they do when they play against other great teams. But right now, you don't really see a lot of games on national television when it comes to the Denver Nuggets. I think that they need to be seen more. Enough of the Lakers game. I know the Lakers are good now, but enough of the Lakers games. We need to see more teams just being showcased, right? I don't care which channel has to be on. We just want to see it. We just want to see more of our stars. And the NBA TV channel and their League Pass subscription is terrible. Sometimes you can't even see every team. And it's really, really expensive. We're just trying to see the best teams play. But not only just the best teams play, we're just trying to see teams play in general. Now, you're talking to a person who is a Chicago Bulls fan. I can't watch the Chicago Bulls on TV even if I try to. They don't have no agreement, so you have to watch it on an app. And that is why they are trending downwards of 60% of people who don't watch the game. But let me suffer in silence and continue on with this video. Now, I bring up Jokic because I think Jokic is a really good instance of having a player who is extremely good, but because of the narratives around him and the fact that, people say, oh, he don't really care, or he's just nonchalant, or this and that, you don't really see the impact that he has, and that the MVP voting should not be this close. Now, there's a lot of things to say about both of these players' games, both positive, both negative. But one thing that you can't deny is that Jokic is having just one of the most impossible seasons you can have. He is shooting 45% from the three this season. He is second in assists, third in points per game, fourth in rebounds, and 7 in true shooting percentage. That is insane. Now, as much as I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I love his game, do not get me wrong, I love watching Shai play. He's one of the most exciting guards to see. There is no way you can look at those stats, look at those numbers, and we're not even looking at the game. Just take away the eyes, right? Look at those numbers themselves and say that there's somebody who's playing better than him at this point in time. Now, if Shai was number one across the boards, you would have no argument for me. I would be saying the same thing for Shai. I would say there's no reason why Jokic should be put in front of Shai. But the issue is, it's not. And Shai is having the effect of voter fatigue, the same voter fatigue that basically gave Joel Embiid the MVP last season. But this voter fatigue is working for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because many people are kind of like bored of Jokic, right? Jokic is, a little bit slow. His game is pretty fun to watch at times. But, all the times he's pretty much just shooting floaters, turnaround jumpers, getting to the basket, getting mismatches. The more exciting parts of his game for a lot of casual fans is to watch how he dimes up his teammates and hit clutch shots, because he is a clutch shot maker, let me tell you that. But people are tired of seeing this. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Like, people are kind of like, oh, okay, he's just all right or whatever. But that's simply because I think people just have not seen enough of his game to really appreciate what he does. But Shai is taking advantage of this, and it's not something that's like deliberate. Like, he's not doing this on purpose. This is just simply how the NBA goes and how they rock the way that they do their MVP voting. It is very, very annoying. It is really vague and up to interpretation. And we have to listen to people like Kendrick Perkins really critique our game and be a part of the voting block. And I just refuse to believe that. Like, there's no way. There's just no way. But regardless, Shai, who the only, in my opinion, is way better than in terms of Jokic, is mainly because he has a better record, and some can argue, well, he also has a better team. There's really nothing that he does really better than Jokic statistically. Now, if just watching the game, of course, he can dribble better than Jokic. He can use his body in different ways that Jokic can't. I mean, they play in different positions, so there's really no way you can compare them. But I feel like more people, and this is something that I've always kind of theorized, the closest a regular average day person is to an NBA player, the more likely they're going to like them and actually like really kind of mess with their game. Jokic's game is really hard to kind of replicate if you're just an average person. You have to have height and you have to have basketball IQ. But if you're Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if you're a fan of him, you look at him and say, okay, maybe I could do a little bit delayed in betweens here and there. I might lose it here and there, but I could do a little bit delayed in betweens now. I might not be the greatest and the fastest guy on defense or the fastest guy on offense, but, I could have a little bit of time in here and there, catch some people off guard, hit somebody with a chest bump or a shoulder bump or a hip bump or something like that and shoot a mid fade or do whatever the case may be. I mean, just look at the way that people play the game now, right? People are taking a lot of step backs. Before, people were not taking a lot of step backs. It was actually frowned upon. And who impacted the step backs? James Harden. People are now taking a lot of threes. That's a mixture for a lot of things for people, but the person who really reinvented the three for them was Stephen Curry, and that's understandable, right? So people love players that they can kind of closely connect themselves to a little bit in some way, some fashion, right? And I think for Jokic, he does not have that advantage, right? So he has to do things that's way much more spectacular and way much more eye-catching than somebody like Shai Gilgeous has to do. Now, this does not mean that Shai Gilgeous is not who he is. Listen, he's still averaging 32, 5, and 6, okay? That is amazing, especially as a shooting guard. He is having one of the best seasons for a shooting guard. But it's just simply not a contest when you're going against somebody who is having an Hall of Fame style stretch of seasons, not even just this season, but just multiple seasons together, and seeing something that we really have not seen before to this extent. We've all seen shades of Jokic, but we haven't seen the total package that Jokic provides. Everybody had a semblance of a post game back in the day, but Jokic has that. But the people who had a post game back in the day didn't have the dribble, or at least a decent enough dribble to not have turnovers, right? So it was easy to kind of get in their body. Jokic has that. They also didn't have the playmaking abilities that Jokic have, right? So it's the amalgamation of everything, right? Now, the only thing that I will say that Jokic is not great at is defense. Okay, you got me there, all right? But defense is not a part of the MVP award. Unfortunately, this is something that I've always been kind of stressing that it should be placed more heavily on, but that's just simply not the case. This is an offensive award. But maybe in another video, we can talk about how we can make awards a lot better and a lot easier to digest than the way we have it now. But the way we have it now clearly indicates that Jokic is simply not only the greatest big of all time, but should be the MVP of this season.